Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining in on our webinar this afternoon on inspiring success in VCE food studies. Cambridge welcomes you here this afternoon. My name is Kim Keane and I'm the National Webinar Manager for Cambridge University Press. Before I make a start, in the spirit of reconciliation, Cambridge University Press and Assessment acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Please know this webinar is being recorded and will be distributed by email to all those registered attendees, along with a feedback form to include your feedback on your experience from this evening. You can expect to receive this email within the next week. You can ask any questions in the chat box during the webinar, which we'll constantly be monitoring during the webinar. If you can, that would be great, so that we can then at the end and during the Q&A session, we can then be monitoring those questions and add them in as we get to that option of being able to speak one-on-one with the authors. It saves us having a great big huge amount of questions all arrive in at the same time. So if you can, as soon as something comes to mind, pop it in the chat box and we'll get to it come the end. If you would prefer to wait until the end, of course, the Q&A session, and in that session, we'll have the Cambridge team members as well. So you'll be able to ask sales questions too inside the chat box and at the end, because it's important to note that there's a lot of people in the webinar this evening. So the more questions that we can attend to prior to the Q&A, the better. I'll be detailing publication dates and page proof dates at the end of the webinar, along with any pricing. So stay tuned for those afterwards. We'll show a few slides and give you a real idea of the options that are available for the texts. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to our esteemed speakers tonight. First up, Sally Laslett. Sally's been an educational leader in a variety of school settings and roles for over 25 years. Sally's an advocate for successful pathways and transitions for disengaged young people. She's a leading principal in the independent flexible senior school setting and has been innovative in the way that she ensures that essential wellbeing supports are provided in the setting. Chrissy Collins. Chrissy's an experienced food studies and health and human development teacher, teaching longer than her 12 students have been alive, year 12 students, I should say. She's been an author for Cambridge since 2007, developing junior and senior food studies and HHD textbooks. Chrissy regularly presents at professional development events. Her presentations focus on student engagement, pedagogy, and exam success. Thanks, Chrissy. Angie Fusinato. Angie has taught VCE food studies since its inception. She's also a teacher of VCE health and human development. She's worked with subject associations, the Department of Education and universities to support students and staff with developing their curriculum knowledge and examination skills. Thanks, Angie. Hannah Smith. Hannah's a passionate food and technology, food studies and health and human development teacher at a major regional school. She's an active home economics professional and has presented at numerous professional learning days with a focus on practical cooking skills, practical classroom management, and exam success. Thanks, Hannah. Let me also introduce you to our Victorian sales team. So first up, we've got Carolyn. Carolyn looks after the north. Kim looks after east, south, and southeastern suburbs. Marcus looks after the west. And of course, our state manager for Victoria is Emma Kapler. Thanks, everyone. Great, without further ado, please let me introduce our very first speaker, Chrissy.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming tonight. It's so great that you've been able to join us. I'm going to kick us off with a presentation and I'm going to have the very great pleasure of looking at and unpacking the study design. It's going to look a bit differently, so don't think, oh, I've been there, I've done that, because we have all been attending the VCEE implementation workshops and haven't they been fantastic? It's such an exciting time to see these changes to our study. So what we're going to do, or what I'm hoping to do in the next 10 minutes is do 2 years in 10 minutes. It's going to be quick, strap yourself in, but also also maybe look at some of those intricate things or some of those specific little changes that perhaps you haven't seen that we've identified when we've been going deep diving into the study design, trying to build the most fantastic resource that we can for you to be using in your classroom from next year. So let's have a quick start with the cross-study specifications. So again, you know, these are key concepts and they include practical activities that are underpinning our subject. These are new, the ones on the screen. They're joining the healthy eating focus, the Eat for Health, which underpins our current study, and also innovation, technology, issues in food and sustainability. So they are still continuing with us. And then we've got some extra ones here that have been really highlighted throughout our new study design. Also too, continuing what we've had is the integration of the range of practical skills. I get so excited, and the range is there so that we can be doing more than simply just or moving beyond producing a recipe that sort of walk into the kitchen, cook and walk out. This is an area of strength, and I love this in our study. And I love that we're able to connect the key knowledge and the key skills. And you'll see some of more of that examples of that tonight as we work through. Now, obviously, we've incorporated all of these in our book. And look, obviously, I'm not going to talk tonight about the change of the movement of some content. We know that, but I will focus a little bit on language, because I think that's where we're seeing some of our most significant changes other than new content being embedded into the practice. And so here we've got just some definitions that have been provided, particularly focusing on food citizenship and food sovereignty, these new cross-study specifications that have been included. Now, this has come from the VCEE, so not something new, something that's been provided to us. So not something new tonight, something that's been provided to us in the study design. And then just a little bit more about food security as well. And look, I'm not going to read you the slides, so read them as we're going through. I'm going to talk to them and hopefully, you know, value add and give some messages around what we've put on here. If you have not got a study design yet, can I suggest you grab one, because we're going to do some highlighting along the way. No worries if you haven't got one handy, but I want to highlight some of those real little tweaks, the things that I have found and that we, the team, have found when we've been writing around the differences here. Before we dive into that, though, let's have a quick look at food sovereignty, and here's some information around it for you. It's provided at the beginning of the study design, some of this information. We've done a lot of reading, and this is something we, our team, have had to build capacity on. So here's my first tip. If you haven't been on the Australian Food Sovereignty Alliance website to download and apply to be on their newsletter, can I suggest you do that? That was one of the first things that we did, the team did, and it's been really great to have those newsletters in the inbox and build the knowledge and build capacity around food sovereignty. And food sovereignty is now a cross-study specialisation that we see across all of our study, not just specifically one unit. So it really is one of those embedded pieces of key knowledge that students are going to be flowing through and building their knowledge on, foundational. And food citizenship as well. And I'm so excited by this, because actually I think our study is building food citizens. And I think when you look at all those, you know, bits in that concept map there, the bits of information, we're like, yeah, we do that already in our course. And we do that already in our course. Yeah, we talk a lot about these sorts of things. And so I really see this as encouraging our students to help them see that they are food citizens and working as food citizens within our study, but also that understanding the responsibility of food citizenship and that shift from being a consumer to being a citizen. And we'll see that this key knowledge and this information and this cross-study specialisation really also too as foundational, is because we don't just see it once in a key knowledge, it carries through the 2-year program. All right, so I said before, this is what we're going to do. We're looking now at each area of study, super quick. So no slide for Unit 1, Area of Study 1, that hasn't changed. And here we are in the key skills for Area of Study 1. And look, we haven't put them all in there. You've got them all. You've seen them before. What we've done is we've really tried to narrow in. So you can see what's in bold is the change. So in this one here, you can see it's now analysed. That last key skill you can see on the bottom there, that is a new skill. If it's a brand new skill entirely, I didn't bold it, I just put it in because it became really overwhelming with the new versus what we have current. So look, not much has changed. It's same, but different. And different as in it's now a bit more rigorous. It's that higher order thinking. It's exciting. We're getting to go deeper. So it's depth, not breadth. And I think this really celebrates the opportunity in our class to really unpack information and unpack key knowledge, give our students breadth and depth in their skills. They're observing, they're critiquing, and they're comparing. So it's exciting. And these are also skills we see in Units 3 and 4. So it's great to see them really embedded in 1 and 2 as well. New skill here, critique. Now, this is not in the VCEE command word glossary that was distributed earlier in the year. So we have defined it as being able to evaluate in a detailed and analytical way. And look, I should just say here too, I haven't crossed out the key knowledge that has been removed, but the applied principles of safe and hygienic food has been removed with the explanation and expectation that consideration must be given to safe and hygienic food handling practices always when carrying out practical activities. That's on page 12, and I've just read that off if you could tell. So I think that's really a great acknowledgement of what happens in the classroom. I agree with that. I don't think it should be, well, we're just going to test this today. We should be expecting it all the time. We expect it from F through to 10. You know, when a student comes in the kitchen, we expect them to do that, to be hygienic and safe and carry out practices, safe and hygienic practices. So I really love that change. And I think it's going to help us celebrate and maybe use our practical activities and our focus in areas that are going to be more explicit to the key knowledge rather than be thinking about and critiquing safety and hygiene. They just should be doing that. So that's consistent across the whole study now. Unit 1, Area Study 2, Key Knowledge, just that little change here, starting with the focus of inclusion of Indigenous ingredients and the resurgence there and interest in Indigenous foods. If you're not following Mabu Mabu, I suggest you do it on your socials. Really great work happening there. And I've really loved seeing Indigenous ingredients being used in different ways and has built my knowledge and continuing to build my capacity. And what I love here too with this key knowledge is that emphasis on, or the explicit impact on health. So again, we're building capacity with our teachers and our students, but also we're thinking about in Unit 3-4, we're underpinned by the Eat for Health program. Here we're seeing that nice link with health here as too. So I think that's really, a great change, a great addition. And now looking at Unit 1, Area Study 2, the key skills. So again, significant changes here. We can see, despite looking very similar, there is that higher order thinking, that Bloom's taxonomy. We've had that shift from identify right up now to justify, draw conclusions, that higher order. And it's great because it does stretch out our students. It gets them, the chance to really not rank our students, which is what we're doing in Unit 3, but it gives us the chance to really grow the skills and ability, but it also gives our top students a chance to fly and really show us where they can take these concepts and the key knowledge that we've been working on. So a lot more application command words, which is reflecting our study. So I found that really exciting. I'm going to dive straight into Unit 2. Angie's going to talk about assessment. So I'm going to not even address that, but Angie will do that for us in a minute. So let's move into the next unit of study. So here, Unit 2, we've had some clarification around food systems, and they've been listed here for us. This is just taken from the VCEE, and it's also now food systems and activities. So you can see here as well, I've just taken an example here of primary production, the activities that the VCEE are telling us reflect this particular part or component of the food system. So just make sure you're visiting the study design page, make sure you're having a look at the planning doc, or it's the old advice for teachers. There's now 3 sections you can go into, really important, and that work's all available for us to help guide where we teach and make sure we're consistent and reflecting the expectations of the VCEE. I've printed that all out and snuck it up under behind my study design in my folder. And look, you may not have your study design in a folder yet, that's next year. Obviously, we've been digging a bit deeper as we've been trying to prepare and get things ready for you. And look, here we have a look at the key knowledge. You can see a couple of brand new key knowledge and some shifts here. So in addition from the food systems and the activities, which I just mentioned on the previous slide, there's no specific mention of food sectors, specific sectors for the industry. So farm and fisheries, what we've been teaching in the past, or currently, I should say, it's not the past yet. Next year it will be. But here, I think those where it says food industry sectors, I was going to say inspectors, food industry sectors, that's implied, isn't it? And you're going to look at different sectors and it's plural. So it gives you the chance to maybe go where your students are interested in. And you can see here the addition of food marketers. So everything that's in bold is what's new. Suddenly we're now seeing the food sovereignty and the food citizenship. Also too, so excited to see the Q&Q edition back, or the quantitative and qualitative measures used to evaluate food back in the study design. And here, the sensory evaluation has moved from the previous area study here, which makes perfect sense that it's linked with these methods of evaluating food. So a great change and really, consolidating where everything fits. Couple of new skills here. We're no longer discussing the food industry programs that prevent and address food contamination risks. We're now describing them, which makes sense. That is a lower order. That's more a description. You're not pulling apart their strengths and weaknesses. That's not what the curriculum is asking for. So that's a discuss, when you're really digging deep, looking strengths and weaknesses, forming some conclusions. Here we're describing what's there, that their programs. And you can see too, we're working through commercial production. We're using our Q&Q analysis and our sensory evaluation. And we've had key knowledge around food sovereignty and food citizenship. So that's now flowed in here too. And that extra part of the leading industries relating to marketing. All right, I know I'm moving quickly. I'm so sorry, team, but I'm just trying to get this done so you can get into the other cool things that are happening. But again, I think it's really important to look at and stretch out the changes to the study design. So I'm hoping this is really useful for you. Here we can see same key knowledge as what we currently have, but health has been included there. Again, links to that underpinning of Eat for Health, and really nice foundation for what we do in 3-4. There's the functional properties we've seen in Unit 3 now embedded down, same with the heat transfer. But then also you can see here down the bottom of that last key knowledge, such as canteens has been included. Now, let's just remember that when we have such as canteens, you don't have to look at canteens. It makes sense to use your school canteen. You've got one. It's logical. It's a logical inclusion. But when a study design says such as, that's just an example that might help guide you of what you look at. You don't have to. It's not required. Where a study design says including, that's a must do. That's not negotiable. You must teach every single one of those when they're listed as including. All right, here we go, looking at the last part of Unit 2. So here, the second key knowledge uses the knowledge and skills from the previous area of study and brings this new area of study focused on domestic and small scale production, where this would occur. So that makes sense. And then shift from the sensory, but obviously these properties are measured using these measurements. So again, you can see too that explicit link to practical activities. So I love it. And look, my argument when I'm, working in the food industry or talking with my students in the class is that we should be linking the knowledge and the skills. We should be touching, tasting, feeling, experimenting, discussing, comparing, analysing nutritionally or, a dietary analysis as much as we can most lessons, because we're linking the theory and the knowledge, and we're not doing a classroom approach versus a kitchen approach. It's a course approach. And so, my guys, I get grumpy when they go, can we cook today? I'm like, we're doing a practical activity. We're doing a yogurt tasting. Like, this is so great. So I'm trying to build that knowledge in my skills around all these practical activities. And I'm really excited to see this explicitly put into our study design, because that means that we're able to really highlight to our students that link between key knowledge, key skills. All right, let's move into Unit 3. I'm moving pretty fast. I hope you're keeping up. Here again, some significant changes, not huge to the first key knowledge, but the gastrointestinal tract rather than the intestinal tract. And here looking at the accessory organs and so forth. So you can see those changes in the bold, the nutritional rationale just really being explicit, biological being removed makes it more technically accurate. And then you can see here the focus on allergies. And then thinking here around these key skills, and we're now got that discussed. So we're no longer explaining and justifying, we're just justifying, which makes sense. And then here, obviously the food terminology has gone. So the key skills match up with the key knowledge. And that discussion gives us a bit more rigor, a bit more opportunity to think deeper, to have those higher order thinking skills and stretch, which is really exciting because I think we were discussing them anyway in class. So let's now, I feel really excited that what we've been doing will match, or what we can do will match the study design. And here too, so food choices, key knowledge, no more food marketing, the role of media, and these two key knowledge have now been combined. The last key knowledge has been reworded, but it's still pretty much the same in relation to key behavioural principles. And you can see here some extra additions. We've now got the role of food in influencing mental health. And we've also got in here the political influences. So again, I feel like we've been PD'd on all of these new areas. So I'm not going to dwell on those, but just kind of show you those little differences that maybe when you've been looking through the study design, you go, oh, yep, that's new. I'll focus on that. But also we've got a couple of other little things we've got to be mindful of. And then moving into Unit 3, Area Study 2, key skills. Looking at all skills have changed here. So this is pretty big news story, but again, higher order and skills that students have done prior. We saw a lot more discussed skill through Unit 1 and 2. So we can see that growth here. But every key knowledge and skill here has changed. And look at that, practical activities. makes a lady like me pretty excited because I think it really hones into what we're doing and what we're trying to do. All right, last unit, let's go. We've got that swap from Area Study 2 has now become Area Study 1, which makes sense. A lot of us were doing that anyway. So here we've got that shift and we're able to see that practice being reflected, kind of has a more logical flow. Again, I've not put in that whole lot because we know what was there and what wasn't, but I've just taken that previous Area Study 2, looked at that and gone, all right, what's different now in Area Study 1? So that context for getting food information, that's a new one. And then you can see that evidence-based and the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating now incorporated in there, and the application in response. Also, two categories of labelling is gone, as well as the criteria used is now the second key knowledge rather than one being combined. And here we go into the skills. So looking at assessing the validity of information. The first key skill has been broadened and we're no longer just identifying. So that's really great to see. We've got 2 brand new skills in there, and 3 brand new skills in there, and a couple of changes to what's happening. And just a little reminder, nutritional efficacy is still there. That remains unchanged. And here we go, thinking about that last key knowledge. We've got the socio-cultural and ethical concerns. And you can see here the environmental effects now more accurately reflects what we've seen in the changes with the food system components, but also with, rather than waste management, it's recycling, disposal, recycling and repurposing of food. So a bit more clarification and a bit more opportunity to really understand those differences around, rather than just waste management, what are those differences and how are they established there? And then also too, just a little reminder around some information on innovations that's been provided at the beginning of the study design, includes the Internet of Things network and the food supply chain, augmented reality, plant-based substitute, meat substitute. So lots of options there. And just this total disclaimer, we haven't written about every single one of the innovations there. That would be a whole textbook in itself that are listed in the study design. But we have put some information about the ones that we think are great opportunity for you to dig a bit deeper in, but also some research tasks there so your students can go and look at these different ones, understand the ones that are relevant for them and find where they engage. And I think that opportunity for student agency is so important. And so innovations technology hopefully is one of those areas that we're able to use really well. And then finally here, last area of study, key skills, last unit, area of study 2, unit 4, key skills. We're no longer identifying diverse points of view. We're now going straight to explaining them. And the principles of research is still here, but it's worded a little bit differently. And look, I think if we're thinking around that debating or discussing or evaluating, of course, we're starting at the bottom. You know, they are going to have to identify and then they're going to be outlining something and then they're going to be carrying it up. But the expectation is that they carry it up and the expectation is that they have that skill. So look, I hope you're as excited about the new study design as I am. I got to about March this year and went, oh my gosh, I just want to teach this one. Come on, let's go. It's going to be great. I love the inclusion of diet and mental health and that link there with the role in unit 3 area study 1. I think there's so much opportunity for our young people and we make such a difference and we're going to continue to make a difference to our future generations. Look, thanks for sticking with me. I know it's been fast and furious, but hopefully this has been useful. You've been able to highlight a few things in your study design that you can look at later and think about how you're going to tweak your program. And now I'm going to hand over to the next person in the team. See you shortly, crew.
Hi, my name is Angie Fisnato and I'm one of the authors of Food for VCE. This presentation will take you through how the textbook and online resources support students across their VCE studies, Units 1 to 4. Assessment is an integral part of VCE. Our school-based assessment should provide a variety of learning activities in order for students to demonstrate their knowledge and skills of all outcome statements. The external assessment associated with the Units 3 and 4 end-of-year exam draws on a range of visual and written content. This could include scenarios, statistical data, case studies, records of practical activities, articles, photographs, diagrams, and quotations. There is also an extended response question, traditionally at the end of the paper, being 10 marks. So let's dig a little bit deeper. In Unit 1, Food Origins, students need to perform a range of practical activities with records of 2. This is supplemented by one or more of the following: an oral presentation, a practical demonstration, and a short written report. This could be a research or historical timeline. These assessment tasks are reflected in both Outcome 1 and Outcome 2. In Unit 2, Food Makers, both outcomes require students to design and produce a practical food solution in response to an opportunity or a need. The focus of the design and practical product will be associated with the outcome statements. In Unit 3, Food in Daily Life, across both outcomes, once again, students are required to engage in a range of practical activities with records of 2. In addition to this, either one or more of the following needs to be undertaken: an annotated visual report, an oral presentation, a practical demonstration, and a short written report, which could be a media analysis, research inquiry, or case study analysis. These assessment tasks are once again reflected in Unit 4, Outcome 1. Unit 4, Outcome 2 differs slightly. Students will undertake a research inquiry report. This is based on a selected food-related topic of their choice and is associated with a range of practical activities. So how does Food for VCE support students through this process? Well, all of our activities in the textbook and online resources builds the knowledge and develops skills essential for VCE success. Our activities cater for a diverse range of learners. They provide a wide variety of stimulus. Inquiry tasks build critical thinking and problem-solving skills. These skills are essential, especially for Unit 4, Outcome 2 in that research inquiry report. Our practical activities supplement theoretical content, and once again, they are varied in nature. Hannah will speak more to that in her presentation. There is a wide variety of exam-style questions. These include multiple choice, short answer, and extended response. All activities within the textbook and online resources are provided with suggested responses and marking criteria. So you're supported along the way as you develop the teaching and learning programs for your students. So let's have a quick look at the range of activities that the textbook provides. Let's Talk is integrated throughout all textbook chapters. These Let's Talk activities can draw on students' own experiences, so their own knowledge, maybe about how they engage with food systems. It can ask them to identify particular foods that they're familiar with or dig a little bit deeper in the content. So drawing on the knowledge that they have just learned through the theoretical content of the book. Once again, these could be used in a range of learning activities. They could be an intro to the lesson, a quick check for understanding, a rich discussion in a class. They can form debates. They range in nature. There's data analysis throughout the text. So students are presented with a range of data sets where they need to draw inference from what they see. At times, they're also asked to create their own data and then analyse that. Creating their own data can be analysed against other various data sources. So we can see that this task, daily time spent on social media, a data source is provided to them, and then the class is also asked to conduct their own survey to develop their own data. Inquiry tasks really ask students to dig a little bit deeper in the content. The different types of inquiry tasks differ in depth and how they're digging deeper. So the range of skills required in the inquiry task will differ depending on what they're asked to do. Sometimes students are asked to present their knowledge in graphic organisers. So we can see here in a comparison alley or even a table. These inquiry activities really ask students to dig deep into the content that we're looking at. Especially in Unit 4, Outcome 2, we're looking at new technologies and asking students to do the research, but then make a judgment or a conclusion about where they stand. Case studies enable students to look at real-life scenarios about what's occurring in our food systems, whether that be technology, environmental parks, or products. The case studies enable students to get that real-world view. This is especially beneficial when we're looking at that food security and food sovereignty. There's also a range of different activities, where the students are analysing their own canteen, conducting media analysis, forming an opinion and articulating that to their classmates within a debate, or creating visual material. Every chapter includes application questions where students are applying the knowledge that they have just covered. Once again, you're provided with suggested answers to really help your teaching and learning process. One of the exciting parts of our textbook and online resources is our exam preparation skills. So we have our How to Unpack exam questions, where students are stepped through this guide of how to effectively read and then structure a response. And this is put into action. So we're giving students a really guided pathway of how they can approach a question and construct a response that clearly addresses command words and shows the depth of their understanding. This is done in short answer and extended response. So we can see the let's unpack it question here. This is for one of the 10-mark questions at the end of our outcomes. Aside from our extended response, we also have a range of other practice exam questions. So we can see one in front of us with our cucumbers. Food for VCE offers more than just the textbook. The additional resources really support the teaching and learning program. This can involve interactive activities that students can undertake as well as teachers, and additional resources such as further reading or exam questions that aren't published in the physical textbook. Students can check their understanding with auto-mark quizzes, and teachers are really supported with this study design through the additional materials such as PowerPoints for every chapter, teaching plans to cover units 1 to 4, so a timeline of how you could cover each key knowledge dot point and where assessment might fit in, suggested responses to all activities, and marking criteria, even marking criteria for our holistically marked questions to really step you through how these would be assessed in external assessments. Food for VCE is there for you and your students. It's rigorous, it has a diverse range of activities, and it's exciting and engaging. I can't wait to bring it to my own classroom, and I can't wait for you to all engage with it yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Angie and Chrissy, and thank you all for being here today. My focus today is on going through the practical activity ideas for the VCE Units 1 to 4 books that we have put together for you. So a little bit about practical activities. So practical activities enable our students to apply and demonstrate key knowledge and skills in practical ways. So when we're choosing tasks, there are some main considerations that we need to take into account. We need to consider variety and a variety of tasks that are planned according to the key knowledge and key skills specific to that study area of study. So refer to your study guide and make sure you're really competent and familiar with the skills that need to be demonstrated in your classroom. With variety comes a different range of skill set that we can teach. So we're a skills-based subject and can create opportunities for that real deep learning by creating a teaching and learning program that incorporates a variety of skills. So if we choose a range of practical tasks or activities, this will allow for that variety of skills to be taught. If we just did cooking or we just did taste testing, then the students wouldn't be able to demonstrate that variety of skill. They'd get really good at doing the cooking and really good at doing the taste testing, but not get that really rounded and holistic skill set that we're trying to achieve with students who undertake a food studies course. And we need to make sure our practical tasks are really hands-on, that they are the doing and the skills-based tasks that we teach in our food tech lessons. You will notice in the text that we have throughout a lot of hands-on tasks to really help you achieve that hands-on aspect throughout the lesson. So they're really, purposely put throughout the textbook to really give that hands-on feel to the subject. And lastly, our practice tasks need to allow our students to be creative. So they should allow for opportunity to explore and excite in a world of food. And we really want to excite your students or in your students a passion for all things food and to allow them to explore employment opportunities, perhaps in the fields of home economics, food technology, food manufacturing, hospitality, and in more general, just being global food citizens and really, helping them to create that food future that we want for the world. So when we talk about practical activities, we do have to include a range of practical activities. Now, a range of tasks is 3 or refers to 3 tasks, okay? So this is really important to us as we really wanted to use a wide range of tasks throughout the books so that we could ensure that we were providing opportunity for each student to develop that skill set for each outcome of the study. In each chapter, we have included a range of practical activities to help extend your students' food knowledge and skills. And the tasks have been carefully chosen to help best reflect the teaching and learning of that's really explicit in the study design of that different area. A complete list of practical activities and cooking recipes are included as an index at the start of each book, so they're really easy to find. And we have chosen budget-friendly ideas to really help incorporate tasks into all classrooms, and tasks that are underpinned by the Australian Dietary Guidelines and the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. So practical activities, we need to include a range. So what type of tasks can we include? So we've become really quite familiar with this list of prac activities that can be included within our classrooms. So a range of prac activities means to include a variety of tasks, such as comparative food testing, cooking and demonstrations, responding to design briefs, diet and nutrition analysis, product analysis, science experiments, sensory analysis, also including taste testing and using focus groups as well. So let's give you some insight now into some examples of the types of prac tasks and recipes that are featured throughout the book, just to give you a bit of a glimpse at what actually we've come up with. So in regards to cooking and demonstrations, we've got a lot of visual images, or we've put a visual image of each ingredient in the recipe to really try and suit a range of learning styles and help with identification of ingredients. We know sometimes students can come into VCE studies having maybe only done a compulsory unit in maybe year 7 or 8 food. So we felt it's really important to create that visual with the wording as well. Clear steps, step-by-step methods are included for each recipe, as well as follow-up and evaluation questions. And we've also created the suggested solutions for those, which is part of the teacher resource package, which we hope will really enhance your teaching as well. Nutrition and diet analysis tasks have been placed throughout as well. So these tasks really focus on key content and evaluation skills that we can gain from doing such tasks. So they provide great stimulus and discussion within the classroom, and really hopefully give you some thought-provoking ideas to enhance the teaching and learning content of a range of different areas. Sensory analysis, everyone's favourite. We love being able to pop these tasks within the course. So pictured here is an ancient foods or discovery of ancient foods taste testing task. And as you can see, with each task, we've tried to create that sensory record to go with that task, to tie in that theory and prac content in a really visual way. Each task comes with suggested responses, as I've already pointed out, and that's really just to give you some prompts and really enhance that discussion that you're generating within the class there. Taste testing, another fun part that we can really help lift the theory components of our food studies classes. So evaluation questions with each of these taste testing tasks will really help you to facilitate that focus group discussion and also really develop another skill set to our students that we're trying to build within the practical food classroom. Science experiments, they help to develop that resourcefulness, particularly those learner skills in regards to goal setting, planning, problem solving. It also nurtures that curiosity, so helping our learners to really acquire new ways that they can ask questions and understand our world and understand the world of food that, you know, we following a recipe is that has a science element to it. So food science and experimenting with food is a really great way to teach a variety of key knowledge and skills within the food studies course. So we've really tried to incorporate those science experiment tasks within the book where appropriate. Of course, our design tasks, we're really familiar with this in our curriculum. So where we can enhance design thinking and deep learning, we've tried to put tasks that really allow for that exploration of the students' own creativity, their knowledge and ideas. So we've got a whole range of different design tasks throughout the textbook. We've also really tried to keep them really relevant and engaging. So, you know, looking at what current trends and influences are right now to really try and enhance that learning experience for each student. Comparative food testing is another type of task that we have included. in our Year 11 and Year 12 books. So you notice the different oranges from the Unit 1 and 2 book, and the blue boxes are from the Unit 3-4 book, just to make those tasks really visual and stand out, so that we can really guide that course when using the resource. So comparative testing, just using a variety of different products on the market to really evaluate and compare what that product's about and how it links to that key content. Product analysis as well, so a range of different product analysis tasks. We've tried to pick some really good budget-friendly and products that would be familiar to students, or they could see a way that they could incorporate that into their diets. And just that, tried and tested products that are really relevant, but really enhance that theory component and put some practical elements in there for you as well. So that's just a small glimpse into what the textbooks or how they work, and the interactive resources that go with it as well. And of course, the teacher is what we've got in the teacher resources too, which has a couple of additional recipes and things in there as well. So we hope we have created books or textbooks that really inspire and engage your learners in the food studies classroom.
So a huge thank you to our authors this afternoon. That brings us to this evening's Q&A. So we have all the authors back with us, and now introducing also Paula Kelly, who is the publisher on the textbooks as well. So when we open up the Q&A, I've got one question here from Jessica Mann that I would like to speak to Hannah with, because Hannah actually had a really good idea about this one. So I'll read the question first. Jessica says, love the look of the recipes. Obviously, we won't ask the students to bring their textbook into the kitchen with them to prevent damage. Will we as teachers have access to be able to print these to replicate the same ones in the book? So Hannah's got a really good thing that she does.
Yeah, hi everyone. So we just at school print the class set and get them laminated. So we just use a laminated printed copy, which you'll have access to. And then the students just wipe them down at the end of the lesson, so they can be used again.
Great, I think that's an excellent idea. So while we're waiting for everyone to think of their questions, perhaps we could reach out to the authors with some ideas of their own feedback from the book. Has anyone got anything they would like to share about maybe their favourite part of the textbook?
I'm happy to go ahead and say that it was a pleasure for me to work with 3 really experienced classroom teachers who are able to try a lot of those ideas and activities that are in our textbook. As someone who's not in the classroom as much as Angie, Hannah and Chrissy, I think what they've been able to provide you is really useful, practical classroom ideas with the activities and the recipes. And they certainly know the student cohort that we're working with.
I'm going to jump in next, and I think I said this earlier on in the session, but I love the fact that we can touch, taste, smell, eat, feel every lesson. And so there is a real focus on practical activities and activities that can be done in a kitchen, and, practical activities that meet the VCAA list there, but also practical activities you can do in a classroom. And I don't know what happens in your school. We've got 2 kitchens, and shout out to my colleague who's sitting here with this tonight too, but we don't always have classes in a kitchen, and we often teach together, in the kitchen or side by side. And so I like that I can take many of the activities into a classroom. And I hate when kids go, oh, it's not a cooking day. I don't want the classroom to be the theory and the boring, and I don't want to do it, and I only care about the prac day. So that's, I think, really exciting opportunity for us with the book, is that there's all these different activities that we can do almost anywhere in your school.
And I'm really excited for the wide range of resources that we have, both in the written textbook and online as well. So I know in my own classroom with my Year 12 students, I've got such a vast array of learners. I've got learners born in Australia, non-English speaking background learners, some that are really high achievers, some that need lots of scaffolding. So the activities we've put in the book really are diverse to cater to those students, so everyone is supported along their way for whatever achievement they're going to achieve with their VCE studies. So that's really exciting.
I think I really like that we've really tried to incorporate what has worked in our classrooms and our favourite, learning tools that we've done. So the exam preparation and how we've really tried to provide support around breaking down and answering an exam question. I think that's going to be a really valuable inclusion in your lessons. But I also really like the Let's Talk components as well, just so that you've got those really interactive lessons right there in front of you, and a chance to really pause and think about what those particular content and skills are we're trying to teach.
Great. I've got a question here from Kirsty White. Can you explain what a focus group is? Is anyone best to answer that one?
I'll dive in. So I see a focus group, and again, if you're thinking about it, I'm going to move into like the qualitative and quantitative analysis that's in Unit 2. A focus group might be a group of students that are actually providing information or providing their thoughts and their feedback. So a focus group really is narrowing in on the information, and perhaps you're not going to your whole class of 25 students if you're lucky enough to have that many in VCE, and you're probably moving down into particular groups or particular cohorts. And I think I'm moving off this question a little bit here, but I really like to use focus groups as a chance to build my mini experts, and then I can have, the jigsaw technique we've been doing for a long time, but I don't tend to call it jigsaw anymore. We call it focus groups. You're going to focus on this one. You're going to focus on this particular area. Maybe, you're thinking about some of the content that you're covering in Chapter 3, Chapter 2 of Unit 1. And then everyone can become an expert in that area and share it along the way. Hope I've answered your question.
A good answer. Yeah, well done. We've got the next question from Ruth. We teach Units 1 to 4. Do you believe that Units 3 and 2 still link more closely to be taught in the classroom at the same time? Who would like to respond to that one? Sally?
Look, I'm going to hand over to our practicing teachers, Angie and Hannah. The book enables our teachers to do a 1 to 4 in the same classroom at once.
Absolutely. I think the book definitely supports those composite classes. So as part of the online interactive resources that come with the textbook will be a teaching and learning plan. So that will cover how you might address the key knowledge and key skills in your own school context, as well as where assessment might fit in. With that, and the vast range of activities that are in the books and online resources, it works really well for those composite classes, because you might be giving direct instruction to your 3-4 students, whilst the 1-2 students do an activity. There are key knowledge that works quite well together across Units 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4, and sometimes you might be teaching completely different concepts. But with the range of activities and that teaching and learning plan, you're really supported along the way to help get all students, whether it be in that one composite class or 2 classes at your school, through to their VCE success.
I'm wondering if I can jump in there, Kim. Chrissy, we were talking earlier about what will happen when the ADGs change in 2024, and you had some great ideas around how this book and we can accommodate that.
And I think that's the elephant in the room, isn't it? We've got this new study design. It's so exciting. It's going to be great. I can't wait to be teaching it. But we know in the horizon, the ADGs are potentially going to change. And so how do we respond and react to that? And look, the good news is we're really working with our online platform. We know those changes. We don't know what changes will happen, but we know changes are anticipated and expected. So like we've seen in other studies, and I've been the author of this in another textbook where it's happened before, we will have a new material available and we will respond and react very quickly. It will be available online. Sometimes I have got my kids to cut out incorrect material from their textbook, or we've just replaced it, or we've stuck the page in on top. But we will absolutely make sure that's there and available to you in an electronic form. And then obviously when a book needs to be reprinted, then Cambridge would take that on board. But certainly you don't want to be waiting for a book to be printed. You want to have something on your hands, in front of the kids straight away. So we'd be using the online platform there to make it nice and easy for you and the students. And that's the great joy of teaching in the modern era, I think.
And to add on to that, so the online resource kit, one of the questions I see is asking what's involved with that. So there are so many activities that we couldn't actually fit into the printed text. So there's vast range of activities that will be online, as well as the answer guides, more exam style questions, and marking criteria for those extended response and holistically marked questions. So you can have an idea of how they might be unpacked at the end of your exam. There's also PowerPoints for every chapter to help you step through. And as I said earlier, that teaching and learning plan. So if you're a new VCE teacher, you've never taught the study before, there are so many resources on that online package to really help support you in that process, as well as our experienced teachers as well.
We've also got a question about Indigenous ingredients, and I know that you can purchase those online and have them delivered. And I think, Hannah, you do that in your school, which is some distance away from our major city.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to, when we do purchase our Indigenous ingredients, to really respond to what our local Indigenous communities are offering, and really be like aware of what's happening with our Indigenous communities and making those connections. It is a little like we are. It's new ground for us all. Like it's not just going to be handed to us, and we do have to try and get out there and build those connections with who we have around us. And I think just from the writing, that's really important. That's what it's about. It's about having that understanding of what are the Victorian Indigenous foods that are native to here. We can try and break down those stereotypes a little bit more, and be really familiar with who and what is stocked around our local areas. But there are definitely a lot of online distributors, and we can get a teacher resource list put up of distributors we have used that are really helpful. So I think it's I think someone else has put there looking at Indigenous ingredients that are different. I think it's more about what is trending, what's easier to access for us, and how we can, I suppose it's about what's easier to access is really what it comes down to, and how we can, incorporate those ingredients as they were meant to be used. Yeah.
There's also a question around whether our recipes cater for vegetarian and vegan students. And I think what's really important is that we've included a big range of recipes. There are definitely recipes for vegan and vegetarians, but there are recipes from all cultures. We've tried to be really diverse and inclusive in our content, but also in our recipes.
I think, Sally, that a lot of the recipes can be modified, quite easily with, non-dairy or, protein alternatives. But there's a lot of flexibility in there.
Can I add to that too? One of the things that my Year 9s have been saying to me over the last 2 weeks, when do we get to make what we want? And so, as much as it's never the free for all, we've come back to the let's try and build in some more design briefs in our, I'm looking at maybe with my Year 9s. So one of the things that we've done a lot of within the textbook is putting in lots of design briefs so that then students can be reacting and responding. If they're vegan, then they're writing that within their design briefs. So I think that is an opportunity to build student agency. And whilst design briefs and obviously the design process is really integral to our study and our subject from F right through to Year 12, Foundation to 12, I think we can give our students agency, and that's one of the reasons they like our subject and come in here and stay with us for the whole time. So that too helps support all of those things around food and tolerances and likes and flavours and Indigenous and different focus there.
Wonderful. Well, I think that we've run through most of the questions here. I can see, most of it is all positive about how wonderful the books are looking, and lots of congratulations on fantastic work. The teacher resources, they do come automatically with the purchase. When you booklist the textbooks, of course, you will get a teacher resource package. So that's to answer your question, Naomi. We've got a few more minutes left if anyone wants to pop in some final questions there.
I think is there one there about the teacher resource kit?
Yep.
Yeah, so we've got the PowerPoints for each chapter, suggested responses for the answers, What else have we done? Oh, and just additional pracs and tasks that we couldn't fit in for you as well. So,
and we've also got suggestions for further reading too. So I know that a lot of this content is new to a lot of us. So, our food sovereignty, our food citizenship. So I've also put in some ideas of where teachers can go to help build their knowledge as well, which will be in that package.
And Gabrielle has asked, are the recipes created for students to cook individually?
Yeah, there's definitely a range of recipes that students can work individually or in pairs. And I think that would also depend on your own setting as well, and the budget of your school. So the recipes are really good to be able to adapt individually, in pairs or groups. Some of them are also created for groups of 4, and that product analysis and taste analysis between different recipes. So absolutely a whole range of recipes to cater for a whole range of settings.
All our contexts are different. Hannah has much shorter lessons compared to me, and we're all actually spanning right across Melbourne and Victoria. So it's something we were just talking about earlier this week. So hopefully wherever you are, however your time frame is, we've thought about it, we've accounted for it, because, Hannah works for 60 minutes, so it's got to work for her. We get 60 minutes or 120 minutes, so it's got to work for us. Angie, I can't remember how many minutes your periods are, but again, we've been mindful of that because our situation is not consistent. So hopefully that's been reflected in the text.
Now, I just had a query here. So Ashley asked regarding the Indigenous ingredients, are there new or innovative recipes using these ingredients different to the older book? And then, just clarified, they're particularly looking at recipes involving Indigenous ingredients that are in the textbook. I don't know, Hannah, or who would like to answer that one?
I'm happy to jump in and say that there are certainly recipes in the textbook which contain Indigenous ingredients, and that's both across books, book 1 and 2 and book 3 and 4. So you will find new recipes across both books, and you'll find recipes that have Indigenous ingredients.
Wonderful. So we'll leave it there.